favorite class. Welcome back to investments. If you were, how many of you were in my last class? Weston, you're in my last class? No, you're not. But I know Colin is. Is anybody else besides Colin in the last class? All right, all right. Well, Colin, I forgot to record that class. I was supposed to record it. That'd be okay. I'll do better next time. But this class is being recorded. Again, welcome back to investments. I'm your Professor Navi. Last time who knows? I mean, I know I spoke about a lot of different things and I was a little all over the place last time. But this time I'll do my best to be a little bit more structured in that sense. So I've got a lot written down. I do my best to go through all of it. I want to talk first. I'm just going to introduce myself very briefly to you guys. You know that I graduated from Barton College in 2015. After that, I've been in Wilson, or I was living in Wilson for a long time, about 20 years, a little bit more, excuse me, than 20 years. Been there a long time. I went to high school there. I graduated Barton. I went and did my master's in international business. After that, I came back. I started working in corporate. I was with BB&T before they merged with SunTrust and became Truist Financial. I have some more years of experience with working for another corporate company called Census. I can't even remember what years those were. I've worked in a lot of different types of small businesses, different types of gas stations, grocery gas station, convenience store, grocery stores. One time I was the chef in the back of I'm not a chef, but like I would cook the fries and the chicken sandwiches and other things at the back of a gas station. Um, I'm just trying to think what all I've worked at GameStop, which was a common thing back in the day when I was a student, right? During that time, I also I worked in the library, I worked in the admissions office. I did a lot of different things back when I was in college to make money and not have to, or at least so I could pay off this student debt. Let's see. Today, I've been teaching for 8 or 9 years. I've been at Barton for at least 8 years since 2018. So 8 years is, I guess, yeah, beginning of 2018. I worked at Campbell University for 4 or 5 years. The community college I worked at for a number of years. Now I only teach there over the summer. I still teach I speak at Campbell once a year. I teach at community college still over the summer. And then my main job these days is Barton College, where I'm teaching currently 6 or 7 classes this semester. And I teach at ECU. I've been there about 3 years. I teach about 2 classes per semester over at ECU. The only other thing is I have a company called Navi Consultants, which I can talk about maybe at a different time. I want to talk to you guys about my financial story, or how did I even get into investments, and why am I so I used to be more hyper fixated than I am now, but I'm still hyper fixated. Why is it such an important thing in my opinion? I just I mean, there's so much, obviously, but freedom, right? I mean, there's the word financial freedom, and I really believe in some form or sense of freedom from, especially for this class. I don't want you guys to, for lack of a better term, become what we call debt slaves. And why do we need debt slaves? And how does that, impact the economy? And how does the whole system work on having people in debt? That's something that we'll talk about. Or maybe I even spoke about it last Tuesday. But of course, over time, I'll talk about it. I was working a lot from a young age, didn't have any money, took out student loans, of course, to go to undergrad and grad school. By the time I got to Barton, that's why I have you guys do the financial aid assignment when I was a sophomore. I remember I had, now my freshman year, I was working at admissions and at GameStop and at the gas station. And I also was in the choir, which gave $2,500 a year at that time among some other stuff, but I also still had to do financial aid. So, of course, I took out some loans. I didn't know anything about it. What happened was my beginning of my sophomore year, I got an email from the financial aid or business office, and they told me I had a check. And so I go to the financial aid office, and it's a check for $10,000. And I remember being like, whoa, financial aid, like really, coming through. I got 10 grand. I had never even seen a 1,000 in my hand at that time, let alone $10,000. And so something felt wrong. I went to the financial aid office, and they basically told me that $10,000 were loans that I was given through applying for financial aid. That's why I call it financial crippling, not financial aid, because as far as I'm concerned, having students take debt from me, or take loans, I think that that's even better of a business model than real estate. Like if I had to choose between one or the other, of course, I don't believe it to be ethical. I think that if people talk about ethics, they would say that it's the consumer's fault, but I don't believe that. I think just calling it financial aid is very elusive and unethical, but that's a whole different story. So I gave him my $10,000 back at that time. And so again, I've been working for a long time. All my money is going towards my student debts and paying, and I'm still taking out a little bit here and there. By the time I graduated with my master's and my undergrad, I probably had a total of 50 grand, about 20 grand. This is debt, bad. I don't want to call it bad debt. We can talk about bad and good. I think I talked to you guys about that last time, bad and good debt, about the, return on investment from your education. But I had about 50,000, 20,000 of it was undergrad, about 30,000 of it was grad. So I got about $50,000. My sophomore year, I stopped taking the unsubsidized loans because there was only that was I think the unsubsidized loan was like 3,500 or 5,000 a year or semester or something like that. So I figured I could make up. It was 3,500, and I could take a 5,000 subsidized. So, and this is back when Barton College was like 25 grand to go to, or 30 grand. I think you guys are like 50, 60 grand or something, even though we've got scholarships for the athletes, stuff like that. So I worked a lot after that. I mean, I was already working a lot before that, but for very minimal pay, especially when I was below, I guess, working age at that time. They knew that they could. Anyways, a whole big background in that sense. But after I graduated grad school, right, I'm still working. I start working at the store. I'm working at BB&T, and around that time, I got my first teaching gig at Barton, and so that at a time I'm working these three jobs. I'm waking up. I'm doing the store. I'm teaching my one class, and I'm working second shift at BB&T, and I did that for I don't know how many years, 3 years at least, and just everything I threw towards debt, the student debt, until eventually I paid it off. I paid off the 50 grand and everything I had. So I had no money on hand, but I had no student debt. I remember this moment being like, I mean, it was like the starting point. In my mind, if you have bad debt and you have nothing else, then you're actually at a negative starting point, right? And so once we have no debt and no money, we're at just zero, right? Even. Get back to even. I don't know. I must have been 26, 27, right? So, when I was a student, I used to ask everybody, every customer, every person I even looked like they had a dollar to their name. I asked all my professors, how do you make money? How do you invest? How do you not, become a kind of a slave to the system? And I don't want to work 40, 50. Man, I used to have people laugh in my face when I used to tell them I don't want to work for the next 40. I mean, I've been working in gas stations forever. So I'm like, you're telling me I got to do another 40, 45 years of this nonsense. And I used to have customers tell me it was in my blood. It was probably like that was in hindsight, I was probably a little racially motivated, but my parents are from India, So, anyways, I remember customers laughing, and even nobody really gave me a direct answer. And so around 26, 27. I discover, no, maybe it was before that. How old am I? Yeah, 26, 27. I discovered Robinhood, right? Before this, Robinhood, you had to, you had to pay 7% to buy or sell stocks. And so at this point, I, buy or sell stocks. Robinhood comes out, and it's like all of a sudden you can buy and sell stocks without any commission fees. So I actually just first started using because I don't believe in the savings account, right? there's nothing the difference between a checking and a savings account. It's on the same online portal. I can withdraw it just as quickly as I can withdraw my savings just as quickly as I can withdraw my checking. They even give you a debit card for your savings account. It's not a savings account. It's ridiculous. It's just a mental, like they're just screwing with you. And so I liked Robinhood at the time because I could start moving money over into Robinhood, and it would immediately leave my account, but it would take like 3 days to settle into Robinhood. And then if I needed to pull it out, it would take like another 2 to 3 days to settle into my account. And we are all programmed, right? This is all marketing is. Marketing is how can we, that's why I like business and psychology double majors, because psychology has a lot to do with managing other people and yourself, managing other cultures, marketing, human resources. It's got so much to do with all of this stuff. So we are marketed, and if you've ever seen the Matrix movies, we've been programmed to. If you haven't seen them, you should see them. They're awesome. But we've been programmed to impulse buy, right? You probably have it like impulse buy. You go and you're like, I really want that, but you don't have money in your checking account. So then you're like, okay, I'll, pull it over from my savings account. And so, one of the first things I mean, there's a few things, and I'll talk about that in terms of what are the first steps after this. But I liked Robinhood because I could start moving money over, and my impulse buy that I'd been programmed to do, I couldn't touch that money. And by the time, just wait. It's if you see something that you want to buy, go walk around the store and tell me if you want to buy it again. Still, after 5 to 10 minutes of walking around the store or going and doing anything else, and tell me if you really need that product or if you end up buying that product or whatever it is. You'll find out that a lot of things are just wants, right? They're not necessities. What is a necessity? Your financial futures, your financial security, your financial freedom. And if you plan to be the head of your household, and I'll tell you this very straight up, it's your responsibility. We're all managers. If you're going to manage other people, I don't care if you're going to manage other people, you're managing yourselves. And part of managing yourself is not only your health and your relationships, but your careers, but it's also your financial security. I do not believe in putting your entire financial futures in the hands of the government or an organization that you're going to work at for 30, 40, 50 years. It is uh, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's lazy. It's irresponsible, whatever it may be. And we saw during COVID, and I can show you in a visual representation. Just give me 1 second. We saw it during COVID, right? People that I never in my life thought would lose their jobs lost their jobs, right? And so what happens? There were people that were, I don't know if you can see this, like this aside. There were people that, they were 10 years away from graduating, which I'm sure has got to mess with some HR rules like your Age Discrimination and Employment Act. But anyways, that's a whole different story. There were people that were close to retirement that got completely screwed out of their jobs, right? And again, there's all this talk about will the government have enough money to pay us our social securities down the road, blah blah blah. I don't know. I got no idea. I'm not here to tell you yes or no. I'm here to tell you that it's your responsibility to, have it into your own hands, right? I can't tell you guys how to get rich overnight or even within the year, but I can tell you a good 5 to 10 year plan that at the very least, if you do it now in your 20s, you can have a nice time in your 30s. And so to go back to my financial story, after I start working Robinhood, I got money. And 2020 comes around, March of 2020, and it's easier to just show you than it is to I'll talk about it too, but I'd like to show you why it's so bright. Where are we at? 100 and macro trends, 100 years. Share, and I need to share this screen with you guys. Maybe you can see this. Reject the cookies always. Right here. So in hindsight, it looks so silly. I mean, it really does. Zoom in, please. Thank you. There, where are we? 2020. Let me look at this. Would you believe me if I told you I lost everything to my name in this little tiny little? I mean, at the time it looked huge. I mean, it looked so big, and I mean, it really. I thought everything was going to go crashing down, and Then we start, if you remember any classes we've had before, I talked to you guys about the GDP equation, consumption plus investment plus government spending, exports minus imports, right? It goes into this whole thing. I mean, I really thought that things were going to crash, but we increased government spending, right? We turned on the money printer, we expanded the US dollar. Another way to see this, money supply. And again, if you've had me before, especially in an in-person class, this is not new to you, right? But stick with my story here. This is it, right? I mean, this blue line, this little tiny gray line is how long the recession lasted. A lot of people believe that in the housing crisis, the government did not act fast enough to kind of save the general population from the suffering, right? If you, well, wherever the employment one went, you can see our unemployment back then. We thought that was bad, but COVID was really bad. This was going to be really bad. You see how short this recession lasted because the only side of the GDP equation that the government could control was the government spending side of it, right? Which is why, if you go to your US debt clock, which I'm sure I showed you last time, but I didn't show you this, US national debt is 38 trillion, GDP is 31 trillion. It's a $7 trillion difference. I learned about the US debt clock at Barton College in 2011 or 2012 um, from Miss Yvonne Shanks, which her and her husband, Yvonne Shanks, John Shanks, have got business scholarships at Barton College. May their souls rest in peace. Very amazing people. And I learned a lot from Yvonne. Um, anyways, 2016. So this is a time machine. I'm going back to 2016. You can see that there was only a $1 trillion difference in the GDP to debt. What ended up happening was that again, when COVID happened, we people lost their jobs, so consumption goes down. Countries are struggling with their own economies, so investments goes down. And exports and imports are affected because trade, right? Businesses are closing, so GDP takes a direct hit. People are spending less. So the only thing that governments can do is they can increase the amount that they're spending to basically, I guess, cushion what we call cushioning the economy. And that's where this happened, right? And I want you to actually take a look. Look, this right here is expansion of money supply during, right, COVID. But what happened to the stock market, right? This is your little tiny recession that is represented on this gray line right here. But then pool money supply, and what happens? We're at all-time highs, right? I mean, yeah, we're at all-time highs. So the thing is, and this is, there's so much I'm going to talk about, and so please bear with me. And I'm still jumping around because I haven't finished the financial story, but people think that when money gets printed or money goes up in the economy or the rich get richer, that the money trickles, that what we call trickle down economics. People think that it actually trickles down into the pockets of your everyday citizen. But it doesn't. It trickles down into asset prices, right? And really, actually, I want you to think about it. And so it's a new little theory I'm playing with, and it's not even just my theory. Of course, I've seen it a lot of times, but I call it the dollar versus everything theory, right? Bitcoin hasn't gone up, the dollar hasn't gone up, your groceries haven't gone up, gas hasn't, nothing's gone up. Just the value of the dollar has gone down against it, right? It's not that those things have gone up. The value of your dollar has gone down against it. And the basic I'm sorry, the basic law of supply, demand, and price affects all of this, right? I mean, every single thing. Just think about the dollar. If the supply, let's just assume, which is not true, but let's assume that the demand of the dollar stayed the same, which we know the demand for the dollar has gone down over these past 5, 6 years. Actually, maybe longer, but definitely these past 5, 6 years. Um, if the supply goes up for anything and the demand stays the same, and I want you to think about price not only as price but also value of an object, value of something. If the supply goes up of anything and demand stays the same, the price is going to go down. But in the case of the supply going up and demand going down, like we've seen in some various things, the price goes down significantly, right? And the inverse is also true. If the supply stays the same, demand goes up, price goes up. Supply goes down, demand goes up, price goes significantly more up. So So again, in 2020, summer of 2020, I've lost it all. I mean, all I had was 10 grand in my name anyways, and 8 grand of it I lost in options. So first thing, don't play with options unless, I think I told you this last time, unless you're an insider or you've got a bunch of information that you just, I don't know how you have access to, how whatever it may be. Uh, don't play options. I'm here to teach you not how to gamble, but how to set up your own retirement plan. So at the very least, worst case scenario, by the time you're 50, 60, you got $1 million or more that you can use to live out your retirement plus whatever, hopefully that you get from your company 401k as well as your Social Security. So lose all my money between the summer of 2020. I lost 8 grand, so I have 2 grand left between summer of 2020 to that beginning January 2021. If you remember, that's when GameStop, all this stuff happened. I didn't make any money off of GameStop. I didn't know anything about it, but I did through and something I'll talk to you about it called Investopedia. I'll type it down here, but if you don't know what Investopedia is, it's just it's like a Wikipedia but for investing. If you ever run into anything where you're like, I don't know there's going to be so many things that I talk about that you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about. That's okay. Write it down. Go to your search engine later and type in whatever it was that you didn't understand, for example, options, and type in Investopedia, and it'll give you a very simple explanation of what options are, right? That's how I learned everything from the beginning. I mean, that's what started this whole thing. Nobody gave me a direct answer on how to invest or how to be rich or anything like that, right? This is why I teach this class because, I think it's on purpose, actually. That's a whole different, again, story about how the economy works and debt slaves and blah, blah, blah. Uh, so I had studied. I mean, I didn't revenge trade. I know a guy who I think maybe I told you guys about this. He made some money in the summer of 2020. He invested like 4 or 5 grand into one stock that was doing thermal imaging. We thought that everywhere was going to have thermal imaging, and because they wanted to track people's temperatures in like I don't know, less than a week, his 5 grand turned into like 65 grand, and he sold it and cashed out. He took the whole 65 and he reinvested it into four stocks. All four stocks flopped. He through his dad, who works at like Cisco, he went and got a good job at Cisco, worked for 6 months, made money, quit the job at Cisco, went back into the stock market, lost it all, sold his mom's house, which they had gotten from like her dead brother. Sold his mom's house. I think he got a job at Best Buy at the time too. Sold his mom's house, moved her because his dad actually had given him, his dad and mom were separated. So his dad just gave him his old house. So he sold his mom's house, moved his mom into her ex-husband's backyard into a trailer, and it took all the proceeds and invested it and lost everything again. And now I'm not going to tell you where his job is because it's easy to know who the person I'm talking about is. But the fact of the matter is, we call this revenge trading, and I do not ever encourage revenge trading. And so I did a couple $100 here and there, but I had no money. And so the summer between then and the beginning of 2021, I just studied a lot, Investopedia, websites, tracking online chatter, all this type of stuff. And basically, I made some money on AMC, and after that, I was tracking trends. So made 20 grand on AMC. I remember SOS, which was a Bitcoin mining company in China, 20 grand I made there. There was a company called Hexo, HEXO, which was a marijuana company when it became legal in Canada. I think I made like 5 or 10 grand there. IBIO, which was a biopharmaceutical company or something when biopharmas were still good, something similar, 5 to 10 there. And so over time, I made back my 10,000 that I lost. Actually, and when I did AMC was the first one. I had 2 grand and I had lost 8 grand. I had 2 grand, and then I made 1 grand between this like 6 months that I saved. I don't know what happened to all the rest of my money. And AMC was $3 a share. I put in $3,000 for 1,000 shares, and I woke up and it was $23, and I sold it. And that was right before they cut the demand side, right? If you remember back then, they stopped people from buying AMC, GameStop. They literally put a stop button on the demand side of the supply, demand, and value equation. highly unethical, all because the rich were getting smashed and the poor were actually making some money for a change. Very unethical, very much showed me how much the entire markets are manipulated. But that's a whole different story. And that's why I don't just talk about stocks and ETFs in this class. I talk about other things, Bitcoin, collectibles, metals, real estate, and businesses, right? If you haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I don't care how you feel about them. I don't feel one way or another about them really. They're just people. Don't get caught up on people. Get caught up on the goal, the vision. His four quadrants and his explanation of rich versus poor, I liked. So if you've never heard about the quadrants or these things, you should look it up. Um, Today, I did not put everything back in the stock market. Maybe I had that point after all was said and done. I had 100 grand. I left 10 or 20 in the stock market. I pulled out 80 and I bought my first two pieces of property. It was a triplex and a duplex, which I don't own anymore. I've sold them and rolled them into other things, other real estate, right? There was one time I walked to a class. I literally had a class to teach. And right before that, I had closed on a property and I had a check for like $175,000 in my hand to class. I don't think I spent a dollar of it. I reinvested the whole thing. And that brings me to one of the first steps of this entire class is discipline, what we call financial discipline, discipline to save, discipline to sacrifice your immediate wants for this long-term vision, which is financial freedom, at least financial security of some kind in your 30s. Um, and this class is more of obviously a memoir than it is actually me, I don't know, teaching you guys anything. I mean, all I can do is share what I've done. I'm not going to share, if I think about the money that I've missed or the money that I've lost through private equity, real estate, and stocks, it's at least $100,000. I can track just like that. I'm sure I could track a little bit more than that. So I don't really teach you guys about the 100 grand that I lost or the however much it was. I try to teach you about the other amount, other stuff that I've made, right? And so again, I'm just going to be sharing things like that. Mainly what our classes will look like. Like today, I'm trying to do a introduction or like a foundation class because moving forward, I'm going to talk about things specifically, right? Like one day or a couple days, we'll actually talk about stocks, and that's all we're going to talk about and look at. And real estate, same thing. And Bitcoin, don't even get me started. And metals. I mean, if you were in this class 4 years ago, I'm taking you to I mean, we went to the pawn shop where I'm telling people to buy silver at $20 a share. I mean, ounces at $20 a share. And I'm telling you right now, you should still buy silver and you should still buy copper. But what's the problem with silver and copper? It's that, you know, it's it's hard to transport. Like I can't exactly transport $100,000 worth of copper from country to country or hell, even place to place. They're definitely not going to let me on an airplane with it. And that's why some people like Bitcoin, right? You can walk around with that store of value and not really have, we'll talk about it later down the road. So again, today I invest in various things, but my favorite investments are real estate and Bitcoin, which is how it's been for a long time now. I feel like I love metals. If you've got a big safe at your house or you're just going to plan, let's say if you settle down in Wilson, start a family, you plan on living there for the rest of your life, buy a safe and start collecting the metals there. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a guy that's on the move and I like to be on the move and I couldn't tell you where I'm going to settle in this world. Um, and so, I prefer other things, right? Stocks I'll only talk about because it's traditional and through a Roth IRA at the very least, if you guys just follow what I'm going to tell you to do, you should. And I have to say it's not financial advice. Don't crucify me for this, but you're like, excuse me, starting at your age, by the time that you retire, very easy to see. I can even show it to you actually. Maybe I showed you this last time. I'm sorry if I'm saying something again, but just to show you, especially if you weren't here last time, let's do five. Let's say your current age is 22 and your retirement age is 60. Let's just do like retirement age is 60 because it's going to be 70 by that point. So yeah, you'll have about $800,000, right? That's at here. I don't think you guys can see that. Excuse me, see that. We're talking you starting at $0, 75,000 a year, which is your maximum contribution. It's only an expected rate of return for 5%. Very conservative. You should be able to get more than that. And I just put your retirement age at 60 and your current age at 22, um, and the tax rate at 25%. This is a very conservative model, and this is also including you retiring early. Um, but here it is, start and end, right? So at the end of it, you'll have put in $285,000, but you'll have, $600,000 or almost 600, like $550,000 more in just the interest that you've accumulated. The thing about the Roth IRA is that you at retirement, that's why I shouldn't do an early retirement. I'm sorry. Let me do 65. At retirement, see, it's over a million for that extra 5 years. You only put in what, seven times five is 7, 14, 21, 28, 30, about $40,000 you've put in extra over those 5 years, but it adds up to an extra $200,000, 150,000 bucks. And so, and when you pull this out at retirement, it's tax free. You're pulling out this money tax free versus a 401k. The only reason I tell people to do a 401k is if your company matches, like I think Barton matches me 2% or something. So I put in the 2%, so I get the free that's my money. That 2% is my money that Barton gives me into my 401k. But when I had a 401k before, I cast it out, and this is very like controversial. So I'm not telling you to do what I've done in terms of the 401ks. But the thing is, what I want you to remember is that your 401k is pre-tax dollar and that you will be taxed at retirement at whatever that tax rate is when you're 65 or whatever the retirement age is. So, you think about that. In my mind, I'd rather pay the taxes right now and just do this thing. Then again, we'll talk about Roth IRA and stocks and where you should put that $7,500 every year and dollar cost averaging and so much stuff. So, okay. At any point, if you have a question or anything, please let me know. I mean, I teach two classes back to back, hour and a half before this, and then this hour and a half. So, um, it can be it can kind of run together sometimes. But I want to talk about the first step. So, right, we're here together. You're here in investments class. Maybe you're just taking it because you have to, or you needed a class to take, or you actually care about investments, whatever the case may be. If you plan to be the head of your household, like I've mentioned, it's your responsibility, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So, the first step, of course, is we talk about your bad debt. But I mean, I'm not just telling you to go as a student right now, go over there, eradicate your bad debt. You probably don't have the money to do that. So how do you get the money to do that? You have to get a job, right? Let me put you guys in the center, so I'm not looking. Yeah, there you go. You have to get a job, right? With the job, and so many people, I see students do this all the time. I did this myself. I remember being a student, wondering where am I going to get my next dollar? What am I going to do for a living? That's why I try to encourage you guys to think about what you want to have, not what you want to do, right? What do you want out of life? Screw the job. I want you guys to think about what do you want to have out of life, and then the job just becomes a means to that life. And whether you understand that today or not, just think about it. I promise that it helps a lot. Students, nobody knows what they want to do. What you want to do, you would be all knowing if you knew what you want to do. But I can promise you through the compound experience of starting, you start working, you're going to immediately learn what you do not like to do. And then over time, over 5, 10 years of learning what you don't like to do, you'd be surprised that you automatically find yourself somewhere that you're like, you know what, I don't really mind this, or actually, I really like this, because you've been subconsciously guiding yourself through your experience on what you do not want to do over time. Do not get caught up on what you want to do after this. Do not get caught up on, don't get caught up on what do I want to do or what job am I going to start working. Nobody's got a gun to your head. You can leave a job at any point. Use it as a bouncing, just a trampoline, right? One trampoline to another. Start working. Once you start working, now you've got some money, right? And what are you going to do with that money? where are we at? The 50/30/20 rule, right? We call it call it the budget split rule. I encourage you to find a budget that works for you, whether it's an app, whether it's doing it by hand. Ask your parents. A lot of old school people keep, and by old school people, I mean parents, not just and grandparents, not just y'all's, but mine and my friends and everybody like that. They keep paper budgets, right? 50% of your income goes towards your needs, right? Your rent, your whatever your monthly payments are. 30% can go towards wants. You know what? That's what I mean about suffering or sacrificing. The budget split rule says 50% to your needs, 30% to your wants, like going out, hanging out, friends, whatever you want to do, and 20% in investing. You can play with those numbers at any point. When I was paying off my student debt, I completely eradicated the 30% want. Maybe I had 5%, but I didn't hang out with anybody. I said no to everybody. I didn't take anybody out on a date. I didn't go hang out with my friends. I didn't buy any beer. I didn't buy a new car. I'm still when I am in Wilson, I'm still driving the same car that I've been driving since 2011. Why? Because it's a Toyota. A long time ago, I heard buy a Toyota Camry, pay it off, and do the oil changes and change the belt every 100,000 miles, and it'll last me forever. And it was from a guy who had a Toyota Camry, like a 2009 or 2008, and it had like 500,000 miles on it. It was insane. And so I think a car, again, until your car cannot go out there and make money for you while you're in class or while you're working 8 hours. And that's what Elon Musk is trying to do, right? Through the robo taxis, they're called robo taxis. But technically, in the future, a Tesla owner or somebody else that replicates this will be able to send their car out while they're working or in class. It can do Uber rides, Lyft rides, make money for them. Now we're talking a good investment, But until your car is not doing that, if you graduate out of here and you go and immediately buy, I mean, it's up to you. I'm not telling you what to do, what not to do, but you don't need a house and you don't need a new car. If your car works fine, I would keep that car for the time being, right? So the budget split rule, it's up to you guys. It says the normal one that people talk about is the 50% for wants. This is your income. Now you take your income, 50% for wants, 30%, I'm sorry, 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% investing. You always invest first, right? And even if investing, even if you're like, I don't know where to put the money, you still put it aside. Put it somewhere where your impulse buy cannot take that money from you, or pay off your student debt. Because if you have bad debt, if you got student debt, then you got $10,000 of student debt and you're paying whatever you're 6% every month plus a little bit of principal. By paying off that student debt, you immediately receive a 6% return on your investment. I mean, it's one of the easiest, I think, ways. You should pay off the bad debt, pay off the student debt, because once you're out there and you're trying to get real estate, a house, a loan for a car, a loan for a business, the bank is going to want to know, everybody's going to want to know, what kind of debt do you have? What kind of credit card debt do you have? But if you're rolling over credit card debt, don't ever tell me, because I'll feel like I failed as a professor, right? I know people that roll over, they've had $10,000 credit card debt for as long as I've known them, 2017. And every year I don't know how they maintain it. I don't know what they do or how they do it, but it's insane to me that that is even a thing. And that is just extremely poor financial responsibility, literacy, whatever it is. But it's part of the system. You can't have everybody being a millionaire and financially free from the system, because it would never work. The system would never work. And then we can start talking about, so many other things, geopolitics, why is war and manifesto destiny, necessity almost. I mean, it goes so deep, right? But we're just little people, we're not politicians, we're not world leaders, we're not, the Rothschild, Rockefellers, nothing like that. We're just people trying to enjoy our lives and not be a slave to the system. And so anyways, it's just so much. So you get the income, you need to get a job, you start getting the income, you start paying off the bad debt, um, control your spending, increase the amount of money that you're putting aside to somewhere you can't get it back immediately. And start putting and pay off your bad debt, but start putting that money somewhere. And again, we'll talk about where to put that money. again, the dollar versus everything theory tells us that we always talk about risk tolerance in investments, right? And I even wrote it down right here. Your lowest risk tolerance, right? It just depends. If you're young, you should have high risk tolerance. If you're old, like 60, 70 years old, lower risk tolerance, right? You really need to be focusing on living out the rest of your life and having enough money to do that. Um, but when we're talking about the things that I will talk about at the very least with you guys, I'm going to start with the low risk levels all the way to the higher risk levels as seen by me and probably some other people. But a lot of this is my opinion, right? Not financial advice, XYZ. Again, don't sue me. So your lowest level of risk, again, this is just a memoir, just things I've done in my life. So lowest level of risk would be money market, bonds, and usually it would be precious metals like gold and silver, right? Gold and silver, barely moved pennies or dollars for how many years? And then if you look at last week, one day gold went up $500 and then it dropped $500 the next day, and silver went up to like 70 to $120 and it dropped down to like $77 or something. I mean, it's crazy times that we're living in, but it's not a surprise, which is the thing, right? I mean, it goes so deep, and once you start learning and understanding this stuff, some of this stuff stops being a surprise to you, and you can, that's all financial advisors are trying to do is predict um, the future, right? And Dr. Richard Lee, who teaches at Barton, would often say, "We do not have a crystal ball into the future, right? And all we can do is try to do our best." So lowest level risk, money market bonds, precious metals. You can put precious metals now is getting a little bit more, I guess. This is traditionally speaking, and then I'm going to tell you what I believe to be the biggest risk. Medium risk, stocks, ETF, real estate. Yeah, and then high levels of risk like you can actually put this in between medium and high. I would say businesses, which we'll talk about how to start your own business or acquire an existing either online business or brick and mortar business. And then also Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, traditionally speaking, people will put Bitcoin and crypto in the high risk level category. I don't believe in any other crypto. You'll never hear me talk about another crypto unless I'm just screwing around. um, that's why I don't use the word crypto. I use the word Bitcoin, right? Uh, yes, I remember teaching about this in 2000, my first class ever in 2018. I literally just I wrote out like 15 chapters by hand, and it was just a complete off the. It was complete. I mean, but you have to think, you guys are taking this class after like 7 years of me, no, almost 8 of me having a lot of time to learn about this stuff. And so you're learning, I think, a lot more than those guys. Um, anyways, what do I believe to be the highest risk right now is holding the US dollar. Um, Unfortunately, I hate that. I mean, I get paid in the dollar. I keep my emergency fund in dollars. And even I have some money markets, bonds, that's all in dollars, right? My business operates in dollars. Um, I get paid rents in dollars. I get paid dividends in dollars, right? I'm not going to talk about Forex much, the foreign exchange markets. I don't really know of another current. I mean, right now the euro is holding steady against the dollar, but I think it's risky to hold too many dollars right now, which is, I guess, I'm sure it'd be controversial to say it. I know more people are talking about this these days, but again, you can't. This is a mindset shift, right? Is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to have you guys think about things just a little bit differently than maybe what we've been programmed to think about. So I think dollars a higher level of risk. Of course, Bitcoin is still up there, especially with all this talk about him being related to or Satoshi Nakamoto being God, Epstein, right? Well, is that true or not? I have zero clue. Uh, do I think that Bitcoin stops because of it? No, I don't. Actually, I mean, if you pay the Epstein file, blah blah blah, all that stuff, it's all still going on, anyways, right? But I really shouldn't say that. Yeah, I don't want to get taken out or nothing. So That's kind of on some types of investing that we'll talk about through time, right? Again, money markets, bonds, metals, stocks, ETFs, real estate, business, Bitcoin. If you haven't, I'm sure you haven't, but if you have no metals at all and you're not exposed at all to any of them, go to the pawn shop, buy a quarter, buy a quarter 1964 before is 90% silver or something like that. I remember buying them for $5 a quarter. I mean, I used to work in gas stations, so I used to see this all the time, and that's how I first even realized or found out about this stuff in terms of silver. Just the quarter part, I didn't know anything about the bars or bigger coins or anything like that till later. But if you don't have any silver, go to a what do you call them? A pawn shop and buy a quarter. I think they sell them for like $12 a quarter now or something crazy. But you can always negotiate, and the price has dropped to $77 a quarter. I'm sorry, a quarter, an ounce in the US, but it's still trading at 120 in Shanghai. It's still, oh my God, don't even get me started about the crazy silver markets that we're talking about right now. And I'll talk about it later when we're talking about that. So I would say again, your first steps, right? You need to get a job, start making some income from somewhere. If you already have an allowance or something your parents give you, or you're getting money from the school, whatever it is, first make sure it's not an unsubsidized loan or a refund check you're just getting because of your financial aid. Give it back to them. If you get an allowance or you are working something or whatever it is, start putting it to the side. I sent out that Robinhood link because some people wanted to go ahead and start, but I encourage you to just do it with each other, right? That way you can get each person. If Josephine sends Jack a link to sign up for her Robinhood account, they're both going to get a free $5 stock. Um, that's literally that was how I started. I think I put in like a couple $100, and then I signed up like 20 people, like my parents, and no, maybe not my parents, but like my sisters and my girlfriend at the time, and all my friends and whatever, and that's literally how I started. I mean, I just sold it all, and I remember Webull at that time. If I signed up through someone's Webull account and I put in $100, I got two free. I know if I signed up through their link, I got two free stocks. They got two free stocks, and then if I put in $100 into my account, I got two more free stocks. So I did that across like 10 different platforms and sold it all and condensed it all into one platform, which is Robinhood. And I had no money as I started. And of course, there's ways to eradicate completely your online data and presence from different companies, which we can talk about that later if you're interested. So I just, I still did it with all these companies and then wiped out my data. It's a law, they can't just keep my data if I request them to eradicate my data. So how to get my, let's see, job. How do we go? Yes, I want to talk to you about how to get a job for a second, which I know we're not in HR or anything, but this is very important in my opinion, right? You always hear the same thing. How much time actually have I even ran? So, what time did this class start? Okay, so getting a job. You hear all the time about people who graduates who go out and they take the same resume, they apply to 100 jobs, and then they say, I only heard back from one person. I applied to 100 jobs, but I only heard back from one person. There's a reason for that. There's only one person saw it, right? If I'm working at a large company and I'm a human resource manager and I've got 1,000 or even 500, if I've got 500 applications coming in a day, there's no way to have, there's no way to have, sorry, I'm getting distracted by someone on the screen. So give me one second. Uh, there's no way to hire. It's not effective or efficient for a manager to hire so many employees to go through all of these different applications. Therefore, they create. I mean, you can pay for it, but if you think about just something as simple as Indeed, right? I used to do it for the gas station. I go on Indeed, I create a job posting, and you have so many different parameters I could set for free. How many years of cashier experience do they have? How many years of lottery experience? Did they graduate high school? Did they graduate college? Associate's degree, bachelor's degree? There were all these built-in tests that I could put in, right? A math test, a mental math test, reading test, cashier test, dealing with people test, all these different types of tests that I could put in for free. And literally it was rejecting applicants based on I never even saw those applications. I only saw the ones that met my parameters. And so if you and I was just a young guy in a gas station at the time, you know. So if you don't think that a big company like Meta or Google or Amazon or all of these other people that actually have, I mean, I didn't have a human resource budget at the time. So these people that have human resource budgets, I promise you, they have an AI barrier, firewall, whatever you want to call it, that's filtering out all the stuff that's filtering out all the resumes. If my job description specifically says I'm looking for a manager that has experience managing 100 or more people, if your resume doesn't say anything about managing 100 or more people, I will never see it as a human being. It makes no sense, right? There is an AI there that's completely looking for managing 100 people, and if it doesn't see it, it throws your resume to the side because I, as a human being, am not a machine. I'm a human being. I only have enough time. That's why AI is not going to fully take all the jobs. It's the people that know how to work with AI that's going to take your job. It's going to take people's jobs. So these people fighting against it and oh, like we don't want it in institutions or whatever the crap it may be. It's like fighting against the internet, fighting against the cell phone, like fighting against Bitcoin. Like yeah, it's stupid. That's what it is. I'm sorry to be like that, but for lack of a better term, it's ridiculous. You can't fight against it. I don't care how bad you want. I'd love to go. I used to have a flip phone with no internet access. I had to type seven 4 times just to get an S or something like that. And like I miss those days. I think those days were, smart. If you've never seen the movie Idiocracy, you should watch it. It's really ridiculous and probably rated R or something, but just you'll see what I mean about this multiple forms of media. You see it all the time. It really is rotting our brains. And you know what? I see this comment all the time on like social media. They say it's like a crazy video, and one of the comments will say our parents were right. It is the phones. It was the phone, or it is the phones. It really, really is. I'm really, anyways. So, but without the phone, how could I do Robinhood, right? I got to keep up with my stocks. I got to keep up with all this stuff. Um, so, getting a job, right? What I really want you to think about, and if you've had, I don't know what class I would talk about, probably in a principles of management class, but where are we at? I would like to just do, let's just use Indeed for time being. Obviously, as people that are in school and you're about to graduate, you can look at Indeed.com. That's fine. Oh, it's in a different language. How do I change this to English? Cool. Okay. It doesn't hurt to just check everywhere, right? There's a thing called the hidden job market, iceberg theory. 30% of the jobs available out there are on Indeed or LinkedIn or job postings. All the other 70, 60%, whatever you want to call it, that is going to be through your network. It's going to be posted internally. Like ECU, I get job notifications all the time about jobs that are posted internally, right? For lateral movements. If somebody wants to move from um, this one department to another department or upward movement. So if somebody who's been working at the company for 5, 10 years and they've been moving up and it's first dibs to people that are already in the company, or again the network. I cannot stress enough how your jobs, or if you start a business, your clients, that's going to come from your network first, more than likely, right? It's going to come from your parents know somebody, or your parents' job, or friends of your parents, or parents of your friends, or your professor, or somebody that today you're not doing anything as students, you're just students. But in 5 to 10 years, you all will be doing something. Um, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be doing something, right? You need money to live. You need it to have whatever you want to have. So keep that in mind, add each other on LinkedIn, keep up with each other, be nice to each other, be friends with each other. Later down the road, you never know where your job is going to come from. And you get so good with your network, and it gets to a point where you don't even have interview. I wasn't interviewed for ECU because I literally went through four people that I literally looked up my hiring manager. I typed her in on Facebook, and this is recorded, so I don't want her to see this, but this is not going to. But like I looked her up on Facebook and on Google and on LinkedIn, and I found four people that were mutuals. And I literally contacted all four people. One was an old professor at Barton College, who was my professor. One was the guy who I worked with at the community college. And one was somebody else that worked with her, and then there was somebody else. I feel bad for forgetting, but four people, and they all went and talked to her, and told her that I applied for this one job, and I just got an email saying when class started and where it would be, and all my initial paperwork. I don't think she knew what I sounded like, let alone what I looked like, or unless you looked me up on something. I cannot stress enough. My first client for Navi Consultants was a girl that I graduated with. From Barton. I have a place where I actually keep that first check. I keep like the first dollar you ever get for your business. It was the first money I ever got for the business. So of course I cashed it, but I kept the check. So I just like a little, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So I want to talk about this for a second. So we're just going to use this as an example because we were already talking about Indeed. Can you guys see Indeed? Can you see this? Yeah, cool. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. So let's just look. So we're going to type in a manager, see what comes up. This is for Wilson. It's supposed to be giving me in Wilson. I don't know what. What's the point of Wilson, North Carolina, USA? Boo. I don't think it's giving me the right thing I'm looking for. That's my fault. I should just, it's my fault for using VPNs and stuff. So, um, what's a good way to show an example? Well, actually, you know what? We can just take I don't really want to use it. I want to use a jobs in Wilson, North Carolina example and stop that in North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. I just need a one example, please. Because it's really easy to see it once you see an example. Here we go. Perfect. Or at least I think it's easy. All right. So Wingstop, as you guys can see, there's a Wingstop coming to Wilson where the old was GMC was. So let's just pick this cashier job at Wilson. Why is it so? If I turn off my VPN, then we're gonna have I have a worry that it's gonna mess with my Zoom connectivity. So let's see. So, okay, what we call the TDRs and KSAOs, if you've had me in person, you've heard me talk about this. This is just repeating this. Tasks, TDR, tasks, duties, responsibilities right there. And then the other one is KSAOs, knowledge, skills, abilities, other characteristics, right? You get your duties here. That's hilarious. They're not really, so normally what you would see. All right. Yeah, here we go. Responsibilities, of course, your TDRs. There's two parts of it, right? You've got three parts if you were talking about human resource management. One is your job description, which is this thing right here. Of course, everybody's using ChatGPT these days to write these, but so here we go. Responsibilities or whatever they're using. TDR is their second part, right? Task, duties, responsibilities. It'll either be it'll be written as one, right? So you don't see tasks or duties, but you do see responsibilities. So we know this is our TDRs. And then your qualifications, knowledge, skills, abilities, other characteristics. That's your third segment, qualifications, right? Whatever the AI is, I remember having to do this all by hand. I have to look at the job posting. I have to take my resume and tailor my resume, right? So rewrite my resume so it's like based on like fluid or it's tailored to the job I'm applying to. I mean, it used to take like 2 hours for one job to apply to one job or an hour to apply to one job. I mean, it was ridiculous. You can do at least four an hour now if all you do is you take the job posting and you take your resume and you like mix it into an AI that's accurate and that you trust and stuff like that. And it can tailor it for you. You don't have to do it yourself anymore, right? Tailor it for you. But if what I'm trying to tell you is that if you don't take your resume and you're not using AI or at least doing it yourself to tailor it to the key words that whatever the AI, they have an AI, every company's got an AI. You can get it for free or you can do it for, paid version. It is filtering your resume based on the keywords in the TDRs and the KSAOs. And so if you don't have anything from here or here in your resume and you apply and you wonder why nobody responded to you, don't wonder anymore because you know now exactly why nobody even saw it because an AI saw it. There's no keywords, it threw it away. I I can't help you get the job. I can help you get the interview. At least this will get in front of a human being, right? Is the first thing if you follow this method. And two, your network. I can't stress enough to just if you mix this method with your network, it's a done deal. I think that's why you have people all the time that get jobs they're not even qualified for, is because they just knew somebody. And so I can't stress enough that whether you're in the position to do it now or later or after you graduate or whatever it is, you need a job. You need to make money from somewhere. If you can't work right now and you're getting an allowance of $100 a week or whatever you're getting from your parents, stop spending it all. Invest first. I hear all the time people, especially with the 50/30/20 rule, they're like, oh, I have to pay all my bills first, and then I'll see what I have at the end to invest. You'll never have anything. You'll never have anything, at the end to invest. You're going to spend it all. Um, Figure out an amount that you can dedicate and you can spend, you can invest immediately, and then of course do the other things. But take out $10 from your wants side of things. But I see it all the time. People that had a great time in their 20s and they're suffering for it in their 30s. And knock on wood, I would like to think I did the reverse. I really and put my head down and suffered and worked a lot and did a lot of stuff I didn't want to do for almost 20 years, 15 years at least. But I'm blessed in my 30s. I'm really enjoying my 30s. So I would love to share these things with you guys. I'd love to see everybody, all of you guys, living like this, or at least living with what you want to have or whatever you want to have out of this life. So. Anybody at any point, if anybody has questions or a comment or something. Also, when it gets time, let's see. I think I only have like 20 minutes or something of the nature, right? Something like that. 13 plus 15, 28 minutes. So anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments? Yeah. Again, today is very much a foundational thing. Like you have to, yeah, that's fine, Trina. You have to kind of shift your mindset, right? Again, shift it to save first, invest, and think about it long term. I mean, there was one time Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett, they had a conversation, and Jeff, he said, Warren, your investing strategy is so simple. Why doesn't everybody do it? Everybody can just be rich and just follow what you do. And he literally said something that I really believe in. He said that most people just aren't patient. Like they just don't want to be patient for it. I can't tell you how to get rich in a day. I can't, I'm not here to encourage gambling or options or call C poly market, anything of the nature. I'm not even talking to you about collectibles yet, because in my opinion, once you're screwing around with money on NFTs or collectibles or, um, whatever it is, crypto like Dogecoin or whatever it is, I really hope that you have you're gambling. I mean, I hope that you have a Roth IRA already set up that you're contributing the max every year. I hope you have at least a couple of properties. I hope you have a little bit of Bitcoin, some metals. And then if you want to go and screw around with your money, perfectly fine. If you're doing that first and you don't have any of the other things I just mentioned, you're screwing around with your money. You're being very financially irresponsible. And I know, at this age too, I don't know. Yeah, it's tough, but take it in the best way possible. I really care about your futures. I care about your financial security, and so I really hope you learn something from this class. The only other couple of things, the rule of 72, Investopedia, I already mentioned Investopedia, but again, if there's anything you don't understand, go to your search engine, type in Investopedia, take a look at it. I love Investopedia. I really believe by Investopedia. I learned a lot through Investopedia. When 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 I made $20,000 on AMC that night, the night I remember somebody telling me 6 months before then, Navi buy GameStop. It's $4 a share, and we expect it to go to $15 a share. I was only buying stocks for $2, $3 or less. I don't think I was messing with $3 stocks, $2 or less. And my words exactly to my buddy who told me, I said, that's too rich for my blood, is literally what I told him. And if I had put down $4,000 and bought 1,000 shares at the height of it, I would have had $500,000 behind every $4,000 invested. That's a whole different story, right? I but as soon as that started to happen, I had no shares of GameStop. And I remember just, I mean, I'm just like, I mean, I might as well have been like, I should have. I mean, I didn't cry, but I should have cried, like, I mean, I'm just watching this happen in front of my face. And I remember like getting this anxious feeling and being like, hold on, like, why is this happening? Right. So I go online, why is this happening? Everybody's like, short squeeze. It's a short squeeze in GameStop. I have no idea what a short squeeze is. What the hell is a short squeeze? I go to my search engine, I type in short squeeze Investopedia. In 5 minutes, I learned what a short squeeze was, and then I go and I type in what's the next short. I like what's the next most shorted stock? It was AMC. I immediately look it up. AMC's at $3 a share exactly. I had 3,000 exactly to my name. Um, I had some more, like in some stocks or something that I lost, I guess, at some point. But I really had that 3,000 in my name, and that was it. I mean, by if I didn't learn in that moment what a short squeeze was, and I didn't type in what's the next most shorted stock, I would have never seen AMC. And then the next morning when I woke up and I was up 20 grand, I just didn't think that I was already feeling like the markets were manipulated. And so I remember pre-market, the next morning I wake up, $23 a share. And all I said was, I remember my girlfriend at the time, I looked at her and I said, I don't think that the rich are going to allow, I don't think the big guys like Citadel Capital, hedge funds, the government, I don't think they're going to allow this to continue. That was at 9 o'clock in the morning. Markets opened at 9:30. At 9 o'clock, I sold AMC. I pulled out the 20 grand. At 9:30, they stopped the buying. You couldn't buy anymore. They literally just restricted the demand side of the entire equation. It was insane. So I got really lucky with that. And I can't stress you enough about paying attention to not the noise in current events. There's a lot of noise. 90, 95% is the noise. Part of being a manager, whether you're managing yourself, your finances, a family, you're managing your business, it's your responsibility to learn through the continuous act of practice. How do you navigate through all the noise to find this stuff that can help you predict the future? Yeah. And then of course, I'm here too to tell you buy silver, buy Bitcoin, buy gold, I mean, copper is just ridiculous. But copper is so cheap right now. You could buy a crap ton of copper and it'd be so heavy and you couldn't do anything with it except put it in a safe and you can just start collecting pennies, right? I can't remember what year it is, but there's a certain year of pen. You know what? You can just do that. There's a certain year of penny, and then not financial advice, but there's a certain year of pennies where the majority of it was made from real copper, right? Start collecting those. I bet those pennies are lying around everywhere because nobody's caught on yet that one day copper is going to be worth a lot of money. I mean, not nobody. There's plenty of people that have caught on, but not the mass majority of it. Um, and then also don't let people scare you. Don't let the noise scare you. Yeah, everybody can't be rich because the system wouldn't work. So if you think about all the things that are technically, there's a lot working against us. And if you think about what is marketing, what is the news, what is all this stuff, it's just marketing. For lack of a better word, it's propaganda, whether it's right, wrong, ethical, unethical. I'm not here to discuss that. Um, why would I market to the whole world how to get rich? Then the system wouldn't work. It wouldn't, there's no way. There's no way that it would work. The whole thing would come crashing down. Um, when it would come crashing down, I have no idea, right? Because in my belief, I think they can continue this a lot longer than I think they can continue this. So one day, I think I told you, oh, I have a couple cool guest speakers this year. The first one is going to be, when is it? I think it's February. God, it's already February. February 24th, I've got a guest speaker. He's the CEO of Carrillo Credit and a very good friend of mine. His business is in Mexico City. He invests in Mexico, and him and I were in grad school together. Very, very close friend of mine. And so he's agreed to come talk to us on the 24th. I'm looking forward to that. Um, because again, the difference between this class and any class I've taught in the past is because I'm still learning myself. I love this stuff, and now I've begun to understand a lot more about foreign markets in terms of the dollar versus other currencies. And all of a sudden, I realized that the majority of my eggs are in one basket, meaning the United States. If anything happens to the U.S., everything I've built for the most part is screwed, except silver, gold, Bitcoin. But my real estate would be screwed. My stocks would be screwed. 401k, Roth IRA, Dunzo. Um, so anyways, so the cool thing is that by the next time we have class, you never know what I'll have learned in a week, right? So I can chat with you about it, and I think about this stuff all the time. Unfortunately, it does probably keep me awake a little bit more than it should at night. It used to keep me awake a lot more, but hopefully, again, and at any point you have questions or anything, let me know. I don't mind helping. I'm going to talk to you just about one more thing, and then I'm going to take some attendance. There's something called the Rule of 72. Yeah, just the Rule of 72. So I'll type it in here. Whatever interest rate that you're earning, you divide it. Oh man, of course I'm getting it mixed up in my mind. Hold on, I wrote it down right here. Rule of 72. Yeah, I just couldn't remember which what sides you divide. So you divide the 72 by the interest rate. So if your interest rate is 5%, you take 72 and you divide it by 5%. 72 divided by 5%. No, I don't think that's right. Sorry, 72 divided by. Oh, that's crazy. So, anyways, if it's let's say 8%, right? So 72 divided by 8%, 8% is your interest rate. It would take your money, no matter if it's $100 or $100,000 or $1 million, at 8%, it would take your money 9 years to double. So, and not and don't divide it by the percent, just divide it like 72 divided by 8 is what I mean, right? So back to the original thing, 72 divided by 5. 14.4, right? So if I have $100 and I have it invested at 5%, it'll take me 14 and a half-ish years to double my 100 to $200, right? It's just a rule that people talk about when you're thinking about you're in, but the as far as I'm concerned, the hardest thing as far right now is to figure out where you're going to get that 8% return unless you take some risk. Yeah, and so you guys are young. If you come out, if you start today and you come out at 27 and you lose everything and you got to start over, I started at 27. I started at zero at 26 or 27. So it's like I know plenty of people that lost their stuff in the housing crisis and all other types of things. Yeah, I don't think you'll lose it at 27, but the fact of the matter is you're not 50, you're not 60. I remember people working in the gas station. I've seen people, you see them, go to Walmart, go to Food Line, go to, gas stations. You'll see people in their 50s, 60s still working. You probably don't want to be working at a Walmart unless you're, of course, higher up, but you probably don't want to be a cashier working just getting kind of the regular at the lowest level of the chain when you're 50 years old, right? And so that breaks my heart when I see that. And I used to have a lady that worked at the gas station who very similar, had a lot of money. Her and her husband got very sick and they had to spend a bunch of money on medical bills. age 60 something, she's working at the gas station with me. Insane. I remember, yeah, there was another man. I've seen it a few times, and I hate that. I really hate that. I think that's a system flaw, but I also think that the Netherlands is raising, and not only the Netherlands, a couple other countries, they're raising their retirement age, and there's so many reasons about why somebody would raise the retirement age, but or a country would raise retirement age, and it's very important for, I can't stress enough the importance of taking your financial account, responsibility into your own hands. You guys are my students for this semester. Obviously, afterwards, you're still my students, but I'll have a whole new batch of students that I also have to pay attention to and give them my time and energy. If at any point anything I'm talking about, you want to talk about it, do you want to, it doesn't matter if it's in class or after class or a whole different time period in terms of we have a Zoom call on a different day or something, I don't mind talking to you guys about it. I always tell students to try to do it now while you're in a class with me versus later because between ECU and Barton, I mean, I have two, three, 400 students every semester, depending on what class I'm teaching. So it can be a lot. Versus my first class at Barton, I had like 18 people, and I could give all 18 of them my entire everything, right? So, any questions, thoughts, comments? If not, I'm gonna take some attendance.